Most of us do it occasionally. We say yes when we really mean no, or we put off doing something hoping that it'll go away or that somebody else will do it. And once in a while, this is okay. But for some people, it's a way of life, increasingly so for men. I think you know the type. You might even be living with one. Is he always late? Does he let you make all the decisions and then complain about them? If that sounds familiar, then John Stossel has an eye-opening report. You'll be surprised to learn why men act that way.
I haven't been in a place since high school, and I thought it would be a good chance to meet some other adults.
Sounds interesting.
You
Are there
know, I
conversations
spend all
like
day
this in your household?
And where exactly are you going?
I'm auditioning for a play.
Well, this is the first I've heard about it.
I told you several times.
I think that if you told me, I would remember. I mean, I'm not an idiot.
Well, I thought I told you. I'm sorry, honey.
That's okay. We're none of us perfect.
There's a name for what Homer Simpson's doing here. Psychologists call it passive-aggressive behavior, and they say it's increasing among men.
He's the guy who says he's going to call you for a date, but doesn't call you until it's too late to go out. Or it's the husband who claims he forgot to pick up the groceries rather than to tell you he just didn't want to be bothered.
Scott Wetzler is chief of psychology at Montefiore Medical Center and author of a new book called Living with the Passive-Aggressive Man.
How can someone be both passive and aggressive?
Well, it's not that you're passive one moment and aggressive the next. It's a way of expressing your hostility. It's late coming, it's forgetfulness, sulking. It's a disowning of responsibility at the very time that you're being hostile.
Everything was left up to me, all the decisions.
Sometimes a man's passive-aggressive behavior is so unbearable, the woman just gives up, as this woman did.
And you have gotten so sick of it, you filed for divorce.
Yes.
And his response?
No response, just ignored it.
And what does he do at home? Does he talk about the divorce?
No,
What does he do?
just nothing, just says nothing.
What makes a man passive-aggressive? Dr. Wetzler says it grows out of a mixture of fear and anger. The passive-aggressive man sees other people as more powerful than he. He therefore fears them and feels he must do what they want him to do. This makes him angry, but he's afraid to show it. So instead he expresses his anger sneakily, indirectly. For example, by being late or forgetting things. Why he feels this way depends on the person. Sometimes, say psychologists, it's because when the man was a child, his mother was very controlling. Some also say it's a response to the women's movement. In the days of macho men, men didn't care what women wanted. Now you're a pig if you behave this way. The passive-aggressive man, however, has gone too far the other way. He fears asserting himself at all, so he hides his anger while acting perfectly reasonable.
I like to think I'm pretty much an easygoing guy.
Walter Riddick works as a cook 6 nights a week at this restaurant in Staten Island, New York. He's very passive-aggressive, says his wife, Roseanne. She works days, leaving home before he gets up, so she can take the ferry to Manhattan, where she works as an assistant office manager. The Riddicks agreed to let us spend a few days with them, because Roseanne wanted us to see how difficult it is to live with a passive-aggressive man.
Because Walter works at night and I'm in the daytime, I have to rely on asking him to do things for me. A lot of times he doesn't. He'll use an excuse like, it wasn't top of my list. I want to see this list sometimes.
One thing that's been on Walter's list for months is sheetrocking the bathroom.
He's got a good start there. And then you come over here and that's where it all ends.
Walter promised he'd have this done by last Christmas.
So how come you don't do it?
I guess I just have no excuse. You know?
Putting things off is a common indicator of passive aggression. It's a way of expressing anger without really saying you're angry. So is being chronically late.
She says you're always late. Is it true?
I know where that story got started. And,
well, you were late to your wedding.
No, I was not.
You were late. Everybody was there but Walter and his brother.
And what time did we get there?
About 10 minutes before we walked down the aisle.
About 20 minutes before we were supposed to be there.
Long enough for his mother to cry and my mother to keep saying, I know he's coming because he called.
Does this make Walter passive-aggressive? Well, let's watch some more. Today's Tuesday, Walter's only day off. He's not a selfish guy. He's a wonderful parent, spending lots of time doting on his son, Ian. And once Ian's in school, Walter does lots of household chores. It's only when Roseanne asks him to do something that the passive-aggressive behavior comes out.
Yeah, that's gonna be hard to do. I'll have to call you back.
If I'm out and I get tied up late, I'm real bad about not calling.
Well, let me go then, and I'll try to call you later if I get a chance.
Right, you don't say you'll call her. You'll say, I'll try to call you.
Yeah. That's what he said.
I don't like having to call her every time I turn around.
So why don't you just say, I'm not going to call you?
Well, that's not what she wants to hear.
Wetzler says this slippery inability to be direct is what passive aggression's all about. Now it's Tuesday evening.
In you go. Hold on to that rail. Because we see one another so seldom, Tuesday nights are nights that I'd like for him to be home when I come home.
However, Walter's late, so Roseanne and Ian start making pizza for dinner. Walter arrives half an hour later.
You want to get a chair for me?
That's your chair, Daddy.
Well, how about Mommy?
After dinner, it's bedtime for Ian. Then it's time to decide what TV show to watch.
I want to see that thing on J. Edgar Hoover.
Walter has something else in mind.
What is this?
It's, that helicopter thing. Blue Thunder.
I'm not watching Blue Thunder.
Well, I'm sorry.
What do they end up watching?
Tonight on Frontline, the secret life of FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover.
No, please no.
Walter goes along with it. But is he secretly angry? Will it come out other ways?
Slow down.
Saturday, Roseanne and Walter go shopping.
I think the sun's going to try and come out.
What'd you do?
Walter's testy.
Well,
Sometimes he won't even walk with her, or he walks behind her.
Where are you going?
did you need any screws to mount that thing on the wall?
No, I don't need any screws to mount that thing on the wall.
Are you going to put it on the wall?
One of these days.
He seems to be angry, but he won't say so directly. Instead, he's more like a sulking child.
I'm not going to eat pizza.
Oh, what are you going to eat?
Well, I don't know, Roseanne. I don't eat pizza every day.
Walter doesn't want pizza, but he doesn't make his own suggestion. Instead, he's just nasty.
Will we talk about that, hon? There, Bean Brain?
Yeah, I heard you.
Yeah, I heard you.
Yet his nastiness doesn't get him what he wants. They still end up at the pizza shop.
I'll deal with it.
We showed Dr. Wetzler some of what we taped.
Yeah, I heard you.
She's not very nice on this shopping trip.
He's sulking. Sulking is a classic passive aggression.
It would be healthier if he screamed.
It would be healthier if he could be more direct and constructive about it.
So is Walter passive-aggressive?
Well, it's not really fair to generalize from such a small segment, but given that, I can point to his grumbling dissatisfaction, his feeling that she's always in control and he has no rights, and his inability to speak about that, to assert himself. It's classically passive-aggressive.
But she plays a part in this too, right?
It's a two-person relationship.
What's her
in this
part?
case. She plays into it by ordering him around.
Dr. Wetzler says some women are drawn to men like this, and some unknowingly encourage this kind of behavior.
I call one type of person the victim who always lets these guys take advantage of them.
Well,
Like Marge Simpson.
I'm sorry, honey.
That's okay.
Now, Roseanne isn't like that.
Not making it there. That's your job.
She seems to be what, in your book, you call the manager type.
Yes. She says, I'm watching J. Edgar Hoover. She doesn't say, I want to watch it. Let's talk about what would you like to watch. She just announces in a very controlling way. He sits there, grumbles, complains, he's sulking.
Please, no.
He doesn't tell her that he's angry at her.
You should say, I'm angry at you.
That's right.
And deal with the consequences.
I want to see that thing on J. Edgar Hoover. Oh, God.
We showed Walter and Roseanne our tape.
What's J. Edgar Hoover? I guess I'm taking control of the TV.
Yeah, I guess.
He says, please no. And you end up watching Hoover.
She's gotten better about what I want to watch on my day off. And
She's gotten better about
letting me select what we get to watch. Say like on Saturday mornings or...
letting you select.
Yeah, that's about the size of it. Mm-hmm.
So then you pay her back by being kind of mean in the way you talk to her. You don't get angry at her, but you say...
I don't eat pizza every day.
Yeah, I heard you.
And why don't you go to work for the National Weather Service?
I can be snappy.
Oh, yeah.
What the psychologist would say is, this is what you're doing instead of saying what you really feel, which is that you don't want to be bossed around.
You know, I could just go live in a separate room, too.
Why not say no to her when she's asking you think too much?
Well, kind of just let her have her way.
But she doesn't get her way then because you don't do it. If you just said, I'm not going to do them, would she leave you? Would she scream at you? What would happen?
No, but she probably would quit asking me.
So why don't you do it?
Well, it might hurt her feelings.
You don't want to hurt her feelings.
Well, not any more than I do.
Often one result of passive-aggressive behavior is that couples grow distant. She to avoid his aggravating her, he to avoid arguments.
Do you mind that you don't have lots of time together?
It bothers me sometimes more
Walter?
than him.
Well, not so much. I've had a lot of time with her already, and I think it's sometimes
great.
it's less that I have to listen to, I suppose.
The problem with this couple, I think, and at least from the bit you show here, is that the conversations that aren't held between them. This is a good example of how passive aggression doesn't necessarily have to lead to divorce or separation necessarily, but it spoils, it hurts a relationship which might have better potential.
And are you going to stay together?
Well, it looks like we're going to stay for a little while anyway.
I hardly like that answer.
So what should you do if you find yourself in this kind of relationship? Dr. Wetzler says that because the man often isn't even aware there is a problem, you women must take the lead. First, he says, so you don't feel abused, set clear priorities. Decide on a few things that are really important to you, whether it's calling at night, showing up on time Tuesday for dinner, whatever, and let the man know that those things are crucial for your relationship. Then, back off on the minor stuff. The less bossed he feels, the less passive-aggressive he'll be. Finally, don't forget that his behavior that makes you so crazy stems from his fear of confrontation. So encourage him to let it out, to have the confrontation. Tell him it doesn't mean the end of your relationship. You can say, go ahead, say what's bothering you. I won't leave you over it. Roseanne told us she'd prefer Walter just say no sometimes.
The passive-aggressive man needs to realize that he does have choices, he does have control. Too often they feel like there's nothing they can do. He needs to learn that assertiveness is not the same thing as unleashed aggression. He needs to speak up for himself. He needs to take control of his life and take responsibility for the consequences of his actions.
And not pretend to, like Homer does.
I can't fake an interest in this, and I'm an expert at faking an interest in your kooky project.
Why didn't you tell me you felt this way?
You know I would never do anything to hurt your feelings. Good night.
Amen.
Women do this
women
too.
Yeah, why just passive-aggressive men? Women do it too, and it builds up and
The
bottles
book
up.
was about men.
I see. But it can happen with either side.
And certainly women may be more practiced at it because women, being the weaker, smaller sex, may have had to use passive methods to get what they want.
Well, they're seen as the weaker, smaller in size.
This is true, but traditionally...
You're going to make me passive-aggressive. No, but it's true. You know, it's either that or the confrontation, and people are so afraid of that, John.
They say it's just better to have the confrontation. I mean, certainly in some situations, it makes sense to be passive-aggressive. For Gandhi or for the young man who stopped the tanks in Tiananmen Square. But in a relationship, you're supposed to be of equal power, and then it's destructive.
Yeah, we often like to ask about your own experiences. Are you?
I am, very much so, and I have to hand it to my wife who screams at me sometimes and says, just say no. I'd rather have you say no. I'll deal with it. I'll be angry. We'll work it out. But just say no if you want to say no.
We've run out of time now, John, and I just have to say no. Okay, is that all right?
I'm confused now. Does that mean you don't want to say no?
We'll be right back.